Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Have you ever taken a moment to think about your pension? If you're lucky enough to have one, you spend years pouring into something, hoping that you'll get your just desserts at the end, but it doesn't always work out that way. And now we have a story out of Detroit. Among many other issues that are going around in the city, we see Detroit Public Schools keeps money for pensions. Michigan is investigating why the Detroit Public Schools District received up to $30 million in U.S. Department of Education reimbursements for some employee pensions, but didn't send the money to the state pensions fund. Yeah, this is a very good question. So you guys get $30 million and you just forget to put it where it's supposed to go. It reminds me of the story I saw a few years back. I believe it was in Arkansas. It's a story about a gentleman, I believe he had worked as a firefighter, and then he became a mall security guard because they wouldn't give him his retirement funds. And then the mayor was on TV saying, well, if we give these firefighters and all these emergency workers, policemen or whatever, their retirement funds, their pensions, we're not gonna be able to afford other city resources. I'm like, well, these guys worked, 20 or 30 years. They risked their lives. Some of them lost their lives. They need this money. Their families need this money to go on and continue to live. And they're saying, no, we're just not gonna give you your pensions, your retirements. And that's a very scary thing. You guys really need to put that into consideration, especially if you're toward the retirement age, or even if you're not. If you're like me and you got many more years to go, think about where exactly your money is heading. That's why one reason I used to work for the county, not now, but many years ago, and they're asking me, hey, do you want to put in on this retirement fund or this pension fund? I said, no, I don't. I don't expect it to be there in 20 or 30 years. So each his own. It's something I'd rather put money in the bank or into some other investment. But if you guys think the pension is going to be there for you, then that's the risk that you take. Now, we started off talking about abusing the teachers and abusing the administrators. Now let's talk about abusing the students. We see that Dennis Hastert has admitted to sexually abusing teenage boys. And this is the former House Speaker Dennis Hastert on Wednesday admitted to sexually abusing teenage boys during his time as a high school wrestling coach in a Chicago suburb before his career as an elected official. He received 15 months, not years. He received 15 months in prison, a $250,000 fine, along with 2 years of supervised release on the condition that he gets sex offender treatment. And the judge called Hastert a serial child molester. Now, I was talking about this story a little bit earlier, and the crew you mean 15 years? I know that this is not a typo. This man is getting 15 months. Now, consider this: if some janitor at a pool or whatever was accused of doing some unscrupulous activity with a little girl, they'd easily get a guy 10, 15 years, like that. Sex offender, rest of his life, sign the law and the whole nine. But, Dennis Hastert, an elected official, gets caught and he gets, a slap on the wrist. 15 months, that's really nothing for that heinous of crime, especially to be labeled a serial child molester. And it's, I don't want to say it's a boys club, because there are many people in the government who don't like this type of activity. But you think about guys like Hastert, guys like Sandusky, Jimmy Savile overseas. These guys get caught doing these horrible crimes, and a lot of times are able to go on continuing with these crimes. Like I said, with the case of Savile overseas, it was well known or documented that the guy was a sexual predator. It was a conspiracy theory at the time he was alive, but as soon as he died and they looked into his records, they found, all the pictures and the sex dungeons and all this other stuff he had going on. Meanwhile, he was going around free and easy while he was alive. It's a very sad deal, and I really wish they'd give these guys tougher penalties, because that's the biggest deal in the U.S. justice system. Like, we need more laws. Like, no, you don't need more laws. You need to enforce the laws that you have now. A guy like Hastert, granted, he's not much of a threat now. He's an old wheelchair-bound man, or at least that's what he is visually. I don't know how much of that is an act, but 15 months seems a little bit light in my personal opinion. So we're talking about assaulting the children on the school ground. What about assaulting the children when you go out to these political rallies? Now, one of the big deals he attacked Trump for, which I don't think is fair. There's many legitimate criticisms of the man that you can make, going from the wall to his views on torture, on and on and on. But when they talk about the violence that go on at these political rallies, he's not endorsing that type of violence. If you go to a Hillary Clinton rally and you got your Hillary shirt on and you punch somebody in the face, I don't blame Mrs. Clinton for that type of activity. But they want to blame the Trump protesters anytime a scuffle happens or something along those lines. And now we have a self-righteous social justice warrior who has taken it upon himself to go out to the rallies and agitate the Trump demonstrators. Now, this is where the issue lies. When he goes out there to agitate and, get involved in his confrontation, he's not being very conscious of where he decides to spray his pepper spray and ends up spraying 2 little girls.
Targeted with pepper spray. Police say anti-Trump protesters sprayed 5 Trump supporters, including an 8 and 11-year-old girl outside Anaheim City Hall, before the meeting even started. The chaos continued when one Trump supporter appeared to pull out what looks like a taser.
And on the note of Donald Trump, he had quite the night last night, but let's talk about one of his running opponents, and that is, as he has come to be known now, Lion Ted Cruz. And they say it's official, Ted Cruz is mathematically eliminated from the GOP race. Drudge had the headline, "Eliminate Ted." So they really were sticking it to Ted on this one. And you see the chart right there on your screen. They say that Donald Trump has 954 delegates so far. Ted Cruz has 560 delegates after winning one last night, but he still needs an additional 677, but there are only 622 available, which is to say it is over for Ted. But he's still, in his mind, trying to convince you that he's in this thing. He just announced that Carly Fiorina is going to be part of his campaign, which really wasn't a shock to me. They seem to be buddy-buddy for quite some time. But he still wants to be in the race. He's in it to win it, I guess, to speak, even though he mathematically cannot win this race. But we'll see what kind of tricks he pulls out to keep this thing going. And as we're talking about these politicians, let's talk about one John McCain. I'm sure you guys remember John McCain. He's going overseas. He's hanging out with all these Al-Qaeda rebels. And then just let me go with this story real quick. If you guys don't recall this, a couple years ago, John McCain goes over to Syria and he's hanging out with these Syria rebels, most of whom aren't even Syrian and many of whom have sworn their allegiance to Al-Qaeda. Put that in your head. Now, when these pictures are taken and they make it back to the American press, he said, "Oh, I didn't know who these guys were. I just thought they're, random guys on the street were out taking selfies and have a good time." Now, if he would have left it right there, it's like, okay, maybe he didn't know who these guys were. But then you fast forward a couple years, he's having these arguments and these debates with Rand Paul, and Rand Paul's calling him out on all this stuff. He's like, "Hey, I know who these Syrian rebels are. I go out there and I take pictures with them." I'm like, "Oh, hold on, I thought you didn't know who they were." This is the type of person John McCain is. Now, with all that said, I'm not faulting John McCain for this particular article, just as we were talking about earlier with the violence going on at these various rallies. I don't fault Trump or, Hillary or Bernie or whoever else for this type of violence. But on that same note, I don't fault John McCain for this story. John McCain's fundraiser busted for a meth lab with LSD, coke, heroin, and counterfeit cash. According to the Arizona Republic, the sheriff's office identified Emily Pitha, age 34. She has worked most recently on a campaign for John McCain's 2016 re-election. McCain's campaign manager issued a statement after the reports, quickly throwing Mrs. Pitha under the nearest bus. "We commend the hard work and dedication of our law enforcement officers in their fight to keep our community safe from illegal drugs and associated criminal activity. The campaign immediately terminated any relationship with Ms. Pitha upon learning of her alleged involvement in the operation." Once again, not John McCain's fault, but shows you kind of things that are going on in politics. Everybody has this notion, well, I don't say everybody, many people have this notion that people in politics are these good, conquering, moral authority people. They're just normal people. If you have a meth lab before you get into politics, you may still have it on the back end in case things don't work out for you, as is the case with Ms. Pitha. We'll see how this story develops.
A lot of people ask me, what is the most important area of Infowars that runs the whole operation that is having such a big effect against the globalists? And I've said it over and over again, it is you, the listeners and the viewers, that send us the intel, the news tips, that support the broadcast, that spread the word. You are 90% of the operation or more. You don't stand beside us, you stand at the heart of Infowars. When I talk about the people at Infowars, from customer service, the shipping department, being just as important as our anchors, our researchers, our investigative journalists, and myself, it's absolutely true. Without this team that we've built over the last 20 plus years, we wouldn't be able to do any of what we've been doing. And that's what's so exciting, because we finally built up to a point where we now have the launch pad. Introducing AutoShip for InfoWarsLife.com, a new way to save time and money when you stock up on InfoWarsStore.com products. Again, ladies and gentlemen, when products are sold out, you're unable to get them, sometimes for months, but we hold back the products for people that have already signed up for AutoShip. When you choose AutoShip before checkout on your order at InfoWarsStore.com, we'll give you 10% off and give you guaranteed delivery of out-of-stock products that are on your AutoShip list. Plus, we're giving you free shipping on all orders above $50. Listeners have been requesting this for years because it's so easy to forget to reorder the products when you need them each month. Now it's finally here. AutoShip at InfoWarsStore.com and InfoWarsLife.com. It's easy. Go to InfoWarsStore.com, select your favorite product, click on the AutoShip, and choose how often you want us to send you another order. As you know, I coined the term 360 win, and with the new AutoShip feature at InfoWarsLife.com, it's a sure win. You add to that free shipping on orders of $50, it is a can't lose. Visit InfoWarsStore.com and save 10% off on your next InfoWars Life order by selecting AutoShip at checkout and get free shipping on all orders above $50. That's InfoWarsStore.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.